Abal Therapeutics from the University of Iowa.
Hello, my name's Seamus Rader.
And my name is Logan Grote, and we are Abal Therapeutics.
This is my little brother. He was born with autism and was nonverbal until about the age of 3, at which point the prognosis was poor. It was looking like he would need in-home care for the rest of his life. However, because my father was a doctor and my mother was a stay-at-home mom, we had the time and the resources to get him the best available treatment. This is my little brother today. He is running for president of his high school student government. He's active in Model United Nations, and he has pitched legislation to the Iowa General Assembly. He's pursuing his dreams of being a politician. You would have no idea he ever had autism if you talked to him. However, not everyone is so lucky. You see, I spent several years working at a nonprofit providing in-home care to teenagers with autism. And I saw where my little brother could have ended up, and it broke my heart. These kids are going to be they're going to be stuck in the system for the rest of their lives. And why is it for them my brother gets to go and chase his dreams while they don't, just because my family had resources? My little brother got ABA therapy, and that's why he's able to do what he does today.
ABA therapy, or applied behavioral analysis, is the gold standard for interventive treatment. It's based on social skill development, including some fundamental skills such as eye contact, requesting, mimicking, other things that make basic social interaction possible for these children. It's an incredible therapy with incredible results. It vastly improves social outcomes and quality of life. In addition, it takes the lifetime cost of care, which for the average autistic children that doesn't receive treatment is $3.2 million, and reduces that by 75%. So it's an incredible therapy. Unfortunately, the modern iteration of ABA therapy is not accessible to the vast majority of kids with autism. Currently, ABA therapy requires 40 hours of intensive one-on-one therapy each and every week with a professional therapist. Costs can easily exceed $100,000 annually, and there aren't nearly enough clinicians or therapists to meet the demand for the care of nearly 700,000 children in the United States with autism. So we have this incredible therapy, and not enough kids have access to it. So what do we do about it?
When I was working for that nonprofit, I worked with this kid. He was diagnosed with very severe autism, completely nonverbal, couldn't dress himself, couldn't even feed himself. What he did every single day is he just watched videos on YouTube on repeat on his little tablet again and again. I was told this kid was cognitively non-functional. However, I watched him accidentally lock his tablet, and then put in a complex passcode to get back into it faster than I ever could. And that's when I had a spark of realization. This kid was motivated on his own to learn how to do that because he wanted to get into his tablet. And that was the inspiration. You see, ABA therapy is based upon a prompt, reward, repeat methodology, one that would lend itself readily to automation. This was the initial idea 6 months ago. It was an app that parents would download for their child with autism that would interrupt their child's recreational use of the tablet with an exercise. If they completed it, they got to get back to their videos or their games even faster. And to demonstrate this vision for this product, we even made a prototype eye contact module. We used the camera in order to evaluate where the user is looking so that it would only unlock if they could make eye contact.
So armed with this very basic idea and this vision, we went out and we attempted to validate three essential assumptions that we made about our business. First, that parents actually did struggle getting quality care. Second, that children with autism had access to a tablet and would be able to use our product. And third, that parents and families were willing to use our product. So we sat down with 30 parents of autistic children, and we asked them, what are the hardest things about raising your child? We heard some incredible stories. One father had moved states 3 times in the last 2 years just to make sure that he geographically was in a region where his therapy would be covered by insurance. When we asked, what is your kid's favorite activity? We heard over and over again, it's impossible to get them off their tablets. We absolutely validated our 3 assumptions. Everyone we spoke to struggled financially or logistically with getting access to care. All the kids that we spoke to absolutely had access to smartphones or tablets. And when we pitched our idea to the families, they were excited about it. They wanted to know when and where they could download it. They wanted to know when it would be available. But there was a burning question that every single customer we spoke to asked, and that was, what do therapists think of your product?
So we needed to talk to therapists. We hypothesized that they could be potential influencers that could recommend our product to their patients. So we went out and we conducted in-person customer discovery interviews with 10 ABA therapists across the Midwest. And for reference, there are only 8 ABA clinics in all of Iowa. It was a challenge. We sat down with them and we wanted to validate 2 key things, like is the demand for ABA services really that far above the supply? And would you be willing to recommend these products? We asked them how long their wait lists were, and we heard lengths from 2 months to indefinite. The clinical director of one clinic in Naperville even said, we don't have a wait list because it would be unethical to put a child on a wait list they'd never get off of. We just refer them to the competition. Turns out they have razor-thin patient-therapist ratios of 2 to 1 or even 1 to 1. Everything was going as expected until we showed them our MVP and pitched our product to them. They loved it, and they were more than willing to recommend it to their patients, but there was more. They wanted to use it. They started asking about what features we could add or what exercises that they were using that we could add to it too. They saw it as an opportunity to administer their own exercises to the patients they already have, in addition to reaching patients they couldn't reach before. They realized that if they could delegate the simplest ABA exercises to software, they would free up time to be able to take on more patients, increasing their clinic's revenue, but decreasing the per-patient cost to families, and just helping the number of children helped.
These interviews with these clinicians brought us to the realization that therapists weren't simply an expert advice, a way to tell parents to go out and recommend our product. They were actually a customer segment in and of themselves. If therapists would be able to automate exercises, distribute them remotely, and then remotely monitor the progress of their patients, they'd be able to drastically increase the number of kids per therapist that could be supervised, and overall increase the number of kids that had access to this therapy.
So we hypothesized that clinics would be willing to pay $100 per therapist per month for access to our software, that they'd be willing to work with us in development of our software, and that they'd be willing to beta test. In order to test this, we actually flew out here to the Bay Area over spring break for a couple days, and we sat down with the CEOs and clinical directors of 3 independent ABA clinics in the Bay Area. To each of them, we conducted our CDIs, we showed them our MVP, we described our vision for this product, and we handed them letters of intent. All 3 of them signed letters of intent. Now, we did not sugarcoat these LOIs. I've actually handed out copies of them to each of the judges. They signed itemized statements saying that they believe this technology will work, that they will help us develop it, and will even serve as references to attest to the fact that it would work. They would like to participate in beta testing, and that they would be willing to pay $500 per therapist per month for access to our software. When ABA therapy can cost a parent $100 an hour, these clinics saw how this would pay for itself. Between these 3 clinics, they have 435 therapists.
These letters of intent were huge for us because as a starting point, they absolutely validated our revenue model, with these 3 clinics alone representing a potential annual revenue of $2.5 million. In addition, it garnered us the support of industry leaders. It gave us access to incredible feedback that we needed to continue to develop our product, and absolutely validated that the pain point that we were trying to solve was real, valuable, and that clinicians were willing to do something about it to save it. So since then, we've been working closely with our clinical partners to develop our product, which has grown in sophistication, and we hope to launch our initial clinical MVP within the month.
The autism therapy is a $22 billion market that we're trying to disrupt. And with only 16,000 board-certified behavior analysts to care for 700,000 children with autism in the US, it's an industry in dire need of disruption.
We are Abal Therapeutics, and it's our mission to ensure that every child with autism, regardless of their financial circumstances, has access to the highest quality of care, which is what they deserve. Thank you.
We would be very, very happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so I just wonder, you guys are trying to do some technology to kind of automate the low-end tasks, if you will. What is it that really requires a human? How far up can you go? Like, did you ever get any pushback, or where do you get to the point where they're like, no, that's the limits of what you can do?
Well, there are some aspects that we're not going to be able to do, and a lot of them are like the physical things. Sometimes it's stuff like, putting a spoon in their hand when you try to teach them how to, feed themselves. or sometimes it's going to just be the ongoing conversation until Siri gets better. And the therapists aren't at all concerned about being rendered obsolete. They're just excited that they're going to be able to practice the high-level stuff and let the stuff that is automatable by a tablet today, let alone tomorrow, just leave that to the technology.
I'm curious about intellectual property. What have you thought about that?
We actually, 2 weeks ago, submitted our provisional patent application for our method of delivering DDT remotely, which is discrete trial training.
However, it should be noted that a lot more of the intellectual property stuff is why we didn't display all of our exercise modules, because we're still in the process of finalizing those. The eye contact one's kind of a freebie for you guys, but the really interesting stuff is in how we're allowing the therapist to interact with it from their end. But again, we're working on it.
So of the 700,000 kids that potentially need this treatment, how many are being treated today and how many really need treatment? Is there some percentage of those that never really need treated and they can just kind of be cared for by their families?
Essentially, anyone on the spectrum, particularly at a younger age, is going to benefit greatly from ABA therapy. It's got a fantastic track record, absolutely verified. The percentage that's treated now is minute. It's less than 5% receive full quality ABA therapy.
The kids that I really worked with a lot, I'm from Iowa and I was working in Iowa. There are a lot of kids that were on farms that just didn't have the access.
Yep.
And a lot of them, they were talking by 3. They were further along than my little brother, but we got it, and he's off trying to run for president.
How much did your product change over time as you talked to therapists and different people? You mentioned that you got feedback. Were you constantly adding features? Talk to me about that process.
This is certainly a little bit embarrassing. Initially, it was just for eye contact, because that's what my little brother struggled with a lot. However, it was as we talked to the therapist that we realized, wait, we should add a therapist side to it, and more features like being able to communicate through a parent side app as well, to ask questions to the therapist and to be able to update exercise lists. There are a lot of things that it's mostly been things that we've added, because my experience allowed us to have a lot of our early hypotheses be pretty on, but yeah, it's way different from how it used to be, and it's way more comprehensive now.
Yeah, it's gone from essentially something that was just a way to unlock your phone by meeting eye contact to a full-fledged platform with a web app application on the device and many, many exercise modules.
Regulatory environment, I see HIP up there. So that's a biggie. Anything else?
Seamus is glad you asked.
I'm not a business major. I'm biomedical engineering. I was ready for this. Well, as far as HIPAA goes, it is communicating patient data, and therefore is going to be underneath that category. However, it's because of the medical device, the guidance for industry and food, that thing up there, that was issued by the FDA. That's the most up-to-date one. They are choosing to have some enforcement discretion, and we fall very, very neatly underneath the 2 top categories of things that they're technically you might be a medical device, but we have much bigger fish to fry, you're good. And hopefully someday we can even apply for medical device status to put that barrier to entry to any competitors, but that's way off in the future.
Since you mentioned competitors, this is a big market, a lot of autism. There's got to be other people trying to do technology solutions. How do you view the competitive landscape?
So there are a couple other companies. No one's trying to do exactly our approach. A lot of them are doing a modified version of telemedicine where they'll coach the parents to be able to do these exercises. There's a startup out of was it Cambridge? Yeah, and they had something similar, but their entire platform was based on Google Glass, which was discontinued. So they've been quiet for the last 3 years or so. And the majority of the way that people are supplementing this technology is that they're just using inferior quality care. They're doing fewer hours. They're just doing cheaper alternatives.
You said it a $22 billion market. Is that global or is that?
That is in the U.S. That is assuming the conservative estimates for how many children actually from the CDC regarding the proportion that have autism, and also that's assuming that everyone gets the very, very cheapest bottom of the line. That's the Early Start Denver model. We're trying to be conservative with this
so
one.
that's
total market,
including all the therapy that gets done today.
That is for autism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The money spent on autism, not necessarily what your market size would be for your.
Correct.
Right. Our market size, there are approximately 3,400 ABA clinics averaging about 10 10 therapists per clinic, which puts our market value at about $200 million is about where we cap out.
For therapists.
Annually, yeah.
Plus the $1,200 a month for caregivers, right?
And we're
Sorry?
Plus the $1,200 a month or a year for caregivers of the autistic folks?
that was actually kind of we were investigating if they would recommend it for purchase. We put $500 because we were expecting them to want to negotiate down. They kind of went for it, so we're like, okay, well, we found our model.
Yeah, but I got the $500 for therapists, and I got $100 a month for caregivers. Of
Yes,
the patient, right?
they signed both. However, for our early infiltration into the market, we want to get as much customer validation as fast as possible. If the clinics sign up, we don't want to scare any parents away from signing up as well, so we can get as many of their patients on the platform as we can, so we can do those early, I guess, efficacy studies.
I'm just trying to argue your market's bigger than 200 million.
We appreciate
fine,
it.
He's right. Okay, we're 24 billion. All right. You're right. I concede.
Is it covered by insurance at all? Like, so we get into the payment methodology here?
So, healthcare, as far as autism care, particularly the mental health aspect, is pretty much a mess. There's a federal regulation that should require it to be covered in full in every state, but it's been sloppily implemented. So only 32 states cover it, and very few of them cover it well. So it's going to vary state by state, and it's going to change depending on the environment.
Fair to say it's largely parent provided then, or for the most part, or no?
It's a good mix. Some states, Medicare covers it pretty well. A lot of states they don't. So it depends on what's that?
Yeah. Have you guys so do you have like a tiered prioritization list of the states? Like, what are your top states? What's your market penetration strategy here?
Yes, our initial penetration, we want it to be in California and in Indiana. Indiana, as it turns out, was one of the earlier implementers of ABA therapy and its clinics, and we also want to be able to get a very good split between, the really good early adopters out here in the Bay, and also you can't throw a rock in San Francisco without hitting an ABA clinic. And we also want to compare it to, what you're going to expect to be the more conservative, slower adoption in the middle of the Midwest, because we want to be able to understand where everyone's priorities lie, and we want to be able to really validate our stuff from top to bottom, because we did come out here because there are so many clinics in one place, and we knew they would be early adopters. Our next stop is going to be in Indiana to see if we can, convince the most old-fashioned clinics to do so as well, because we think that will be a really good testament to our product's abilities and to the consensus that this is going to work. This is a great idea. Trial by fire.
All right. Thank you, Abal Therapeutics.